Good morning. Thanks for joining us. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Katie. We're coming to you live from the ECE14 newsroom with breaking news on the subject of inclusion in our public school classrooms. Sarah, do you want to tell us a little bit about inclusion?
Absolutely. So inclusion is the securing of equal opportunities for every student regardless of the severity of their disability or ability. This means that all students are included and supported in their classroom in the least restrictive environment, whether through effective general education strategies or through more significant help outlined in an individual education plan, or IEP. Every student deserves the right to a high-quality education, and every teacher deserves the right and the supports necessary to provide that.
Which brings us to the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 1975.
What is that, Katie?
That is a law enacted by Congress to ensure that all children with disabilities are provided equal opportunities to a free and public education. Students can qualify for IDEA if they have received an official diagnosis of a disability, and they are supported by IDEA with specialized services in their classrooms and often supported through IEPs, as Sarah mentioned before.
So when we talk about special education and inclusion, it has to deal with a lot of funding, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our Carrie Grundle is live in the statistics room with some statistics on inclusion and special education funding. Off to Carrie.
Thanks, Sarah and Katie. The funding for special education has been up for debate since IDEA was originally written in the 1970s. This law states that federal funding for special education can provide up to 40% of the state's special education budget. But in reality, it looks more like this, with Congress allotting about 15% of the funds to states. This means that individual states must make up the rest, which is placing an additional burden on the individual states to come up with the money for their students. Back to you, Sarah and Katie.
Thanks, Carrie.
All right, so what does special education look like in today's classroom? We're about to go to Sammy, who's live in the field, to go to Ms. Force's classroom, observing a student enrolled in special education and to see her supportive practices. Sammy?
Go.
Thanks, Katie. I'm here in Miss Force's second grade classroom. She's teaching a lesson about fractions. Let's take a closer look. All right, friends, today we're going to learn about equivalent fractions with all your little manipulatives. So first, let's do 1/2. So we're going to take 1/2 of a circle and say, what is an equivalent fraction to 1/2? What do we think? Katie?
2/4.
Wow, nice job. So now we're going to do part of a circle. We're going to look at the circle and say this is 1/2.
All right, Katie.
How much
speech?
Okay.
is this?
You're working on fractions today?
Yeah.
I'll bring her back in a little while.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great job. Oh, Sammy wrote your name. Look at that.
Okay.
Oh.
Hi, Miss Force. Katie's back from stage. What are you guys still working on fractions?
We are
Awesome.
working on equivalent fractions.
Okay.
All right. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks, you too. Oh, Katie, I like how you're making pictures right now, but right now we're doing fractions.
That's what I'm doing right now. I made a 1.
So these pictures are what you're going to use these fraction pieces for.
But wait, I wasn't here for this.
Well, you should have been.
But I was at speech.
Well, why don't you try and work with a friend, and I can get back to you soon. I have a question. Yes?
I don't know what to do when there's an odd number of pieces.
Just like this. Well, let's
You
look,
fill in the pieces.
Let's look this up. I have a question. Yes?
No.
Okay, so
How
am I doing this right?
How do you do this one?
Color this one.
You do half.
What? I didn't learn that though.
So let's see. You have 2 out of the 8. So that would equal 1/4, right?
Well, I'll just play with my shapes.
Ms. Flores. Thank you for welcoming me into your classroom. So, it looked like Katie had a really hard time coming back into class and figuring out where every student was. How would you make sure you support all your students?
Well, that's quite difficult, especially since I have kids at different levels and I'm trying to accommodate every student's needs. Usually I try and use different resources and materials to help the students.
So what are the different forms of special education services?
That's a really good question. So we have pull-out services in which students are taken out of the classroom, as mentioned before, with a PT and OT, a special education teacher, etc. This gives them the opportunity to work on what they need for the general education curriculum. And then we have push-in services where students get to work with their peers but have the supports from other professionals. I like this model personally better because students get to interact with their peers and learn general instruction from their teachers instead of being pulled out. And then we have the blended classroom where students are able to work with peer models and other individuals, and so there's more peer interaction and learning really from each other, which is really what school is all about.
How do you best determine the best environment for students to learn in?
Well, students have individual needs, so we have to look at each student individually and try and find the best supports for them. Sometimes we will find that an individualized education plan or an IEP for students with disabilities helps us to determine the best supports for that child.
All right. Ms. Flores, how do we help children who do not have an IEP or have not been diagnosed receive any services?
That's a really good question. So many of our students without IEPs don't unfortunately get the pull-out services. However, we try and best support these students inside the classroom because we have a very inclusive classroom. We want students to be comfortable, so we use different materials and different manipulatives. We use multiple different teaching styles, so if there's something the student isn't learning, we try and look at, well, maybe they learn a different way. And we use individualized instruction and small group instruction so students can get what they really need.
All right. How do we help prepare teachers for inclusive settings?
Teachers, in order to completely understand what inclusive settings should be like, they need the resources and the training in order to do so. And this all comes down, unfortunately, to funding, which I wish we had a more inclusive, or more support for an inclusive classroom.
All right. Well, thank you, Ms. Flores. It was really nice being able to talk to you today and learning a little bit more about this inclusive environment that you were talking about today. So now back to you, Katie and Sarah.
Thanks, Sammy. So what really seems to be the burning question is, what can we do to improve inclusive practices in our public schools?
I think you're right, Katie. Based on the research, we have found that teachers need additional training and resources in their classroom to best support the students, whether they have an identified disability or not. This all ties back, unfortunately, to funding.
It does. So, is there any way our viewers at home can help take a stand?
As a matter of fact, there is. Our team at ECE14 News has composed a letter to advocate for special education funding, training for teachers, and resources for the educational community. If you would like to help become an advocate, download inside the letter on our website and send it to your community, school leaders, state representatives, and congressional members. Together, we can make a difference in today's youth. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Katie.
You stay classy, Whitewater.